For decades, the so-called robot revolution was a promise that always seemed 10 years away. The reality of industrial automation meant expensive, specialized machinery, bolted to the floor and isolated behind safety barriers because it was too rigid and too dangerous to operate near people. Historically, if a business wanted to scale up its production, it had a simple mandate: hire more humans. That requirement created a natural mechanism for distributing wealth through wages, tying corporate growth directly to human employment. But today, that model is breaking down. Across the developed world, from the United States to Europe and parts of Asia, populations are aging rapidly. We are hitting a demographic cliff. The result is a massive labor vacuum. Small and medium enterprises are finding it impossible to fill physically demanding, repetitive, or dangerous roles. You can raise wages, but if the local workforce simply doesn't exist, production stalls. The sudden push to deploy intelligent machines across our supply chains is entirely driven by this math. Businesses are automating out of sheer economic necessity. That brings us to right now. Advances in artificial intelligence have collided with plunging hardware costs, pushing robotics out of the lab and into active deployment, walking past empty human workstations in real-world facilities. This happened remarkably fast because robotics piggybacked on the mobile phone industry. Producing billions of smartphones drove down the cost of cameras, sensors, and the high-torque actuators that act as a machine's muscles, dropping prices from thousands of dollars to roughly $100 apiece. This chart plots exactly how the math inverted. We have a steadily rising line representing human wages and inflation, intersecting with a sharply plunging line showing the cost of building a general-purpose humanoid robot. Today, that manufacturing cost is heading toward $20,000. When you factor in electricity and basic maintenance, running that $20,000 machine over its lifespan costs roughly $2 an hour. Compare that to rising minimum wages, and the financial incentive becomes impossible for a logistics manager to ignore. We have crossed a mathematical threshold. Deploying a versatile physical machine is now cheaper than an annual human salary. Falling hardware prices mean nothing if the machine can't navigate a messy warehouse. The critical shift is in how these systems learn. This is embodied AI. Engineers used to spend weeks writing code to map out every single inch of a robotic arm's movement. Now, developers are using large-scale neural networks to teach robots through imitation. These machines perceive their environment in 3 dimensions. If an object starts to slip or an obstacle appears in the way, they analyze the physics and correct their own mistakes in real time, adjusting their grip without waiting for a human command. Generative AI is no longer confined to writing text or generating images on a screen. It has learned to execute physical actions in the real world. Tech giants and startups alike are aggressively inserting these adaptable brains into versatile humanoid frames. Models like Tesla's Optimus or Figure AI's machines are built specifically to occupy the spaces we already built for ourselves. Because these robots can learn a physical task simply by watching a human demonstration and understanding plain speech, they can be deployed to new jobs in a fraction of the time it used to take. Wall Street understands exactly what this means for corporate profits. Global capital is pouring billions of dollars into early-stage robotics companies. Investors are pricing these startups under an entirely new premise. They aren't treating them as hardware manufacturers selling a product. They are funding them as labor-as-a-service platforms. Look at how this changes a company's balance sheet. Instead of a warehouse owner spending $10 million upfront to buy heavy machinery, they simply pay a monthly subscription fee to rent a fleet of 50 humanoid workers. The robots receive software updates overnight, gaining new skills by morning. These rented machines don't need health insurance, they don't get tired, and they can work consecutive shifts on a single charge. This creates a powerful productivity flywheel for business owners, allowing them to scale output indefinitely and drive unit costs into the floor. In the emerging robot economy, corporate growth completely detaches from human labor. The incentive structure of the market is pivoting from distributing wealth through wages to concentrating it through capital assets. The rollout is already underway. Right now, companies are moving pilot programs out of tightly controlled assembly lines and into dynamic environments like logistics hubs and healthcare facilities. Within 3 to 5 years, manufacturers plan to bridge the final gap, deploying systems into unstructured domestic spaces to handle everyday household chores. Once physical labor becomes a cheap, scalable utility, global supply chains will inevitably fracture and reorganize. The geographic advantage of shipping materials overseas to access cheaper workforces disappears. Nations that built their economic models on exporting cheap manual labor, like assembling consumer electronics by hand, will face severe crises as Western companies reshore their manufacturing to local, automated fleets. Robotic labor is integrating into the background of global industry, moving from a visible tech showcase to an essential piece of infrastructure. When economists look at automation, they usually point to history. In past industrial revolutions, humans displaced by machines simply transitioned into roles requiring more dexterity or moved into the service sector. This chart highlights the flaw in that comparison. We are mapping three major job sectors: heavy labor, service, and dexterity. The humanoid form factor is designed specifically to follow us into every single one of those unstructured environments at the exact same time. This dynamic creates immense friction. We will see a massive boom in high-skill roles for AI oversight and system design, heavily paired with wage depression across middle-skill and routine physical jobs. When the tractor replaced the plow, agricultural workers had decades to adapt to the new reality. The current wave of robotic integration is compressing that entire societal shift into a 5 to 10-year window. We are building machines to successfully bypass the limitations of our own biology. In a world where human physical effort is no longer the primary driver of economic value, we have to figure out what to do with our uniquely human time.